Welcome. Thank you for being here with the Dharma Journey, a quiet space where we walk together on the path of self-discovery, mindfulness, and the search for inner truth. This channel isn't about lofty theories or trendy ideas. It's a space where we pause in a world that's always rushing forward. A space where we learn to truly listen while everyone else is trying to speak. A space where we simply sit silently and return to ourselves. Dharma is a Sanskrit word that refers to the natural law, the truth, the essence of things. Journey means this is a process, not a destination. And the Dharma journey is just that, your journey. My journey, all of our journeys back to the heart of who we are, guided by practice, awareness, and wisdom in daily life. And in this very first video, I'd like to invite you into a topic that's both simple and profoundly powerful, the power of silence. We live in a time of overwhelming noise. Voices from the outside flood our lives, social media. Notifications, conversations, the constant pull of news, and even louder are the voices inside our heads. Worry, overthinking, comparison, doubt. In this world, silence often feels out of place, neglected, or even feared. Many people grow anxious when there's nothing to hear, or uneasy when sitting alone with their thoughts. Yet ironically, it is in silence that we hear the most. Silence isn't an escape. It is a sanctuary. It is a space where healing happens, where clarity arises. It is the ground beneath our feet when everything else is shifting. In Buddhism, silence is not just a state, it's a practice. The Buddha often remained silent in response to certain questions, not because he lacked an answer, but because some truths can only be felt in stillness. Profound silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of self. It's when we're no longer pulled into the past, nor rushing into the future. It's when each breath becomes clear, when we are fully present, and from that presence, something begins to unfold. Our minds become still. Our emotions lose their grip. Our exhaustion and anxiety begin to dissolve, and we experience a kind of freedom, not from the outside, but from within. In the videos to come, the Dharma Journey will guide you through many layers of silence. Silence in meditation, silence in communication, silence as a form of healing, and how to integrate silence into modern, busy life. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, lost, or simply long to feel whole again, give yourself permission to explore this sacred space, the power of silence. And if what we share resonates with you, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and walk this path with us. The journey into awareness begins with a single moment of silence. Thank you for being here. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, the world-honored one. Have you ever felt tired of all the noise? Not just the noise from traffic, conversations, TVs, or ringing phones, but the invisible noise inside your mind, the voice of worry. Comparison, pressure, judgment, the one always reminding you to move faster, do more, be better. Modern life gives us convenience, but it also floods us with chaos. We live in a world where noise has become the default. So much so that if everything suddenly goes quiet, we feel strange, empty, maybe even anxious. We've forgotten how to be silent. And yet, it's only in silence that we can truly reconnect with ourselves. Without silence, we can't hear our inner voice. Without silence, we can't observe our emotions or understand what we're feeling, needing or resisting. Without silence, we can't truly live. Why are we afraid of silence? Because in silence, everything we've avoided starts to rise to the surface. The wounds we never healed, the fears we never named, the dreams we buried long ago, they all wait for us in the silence. So we try to stay busy. We play music the moment we wake up. We scroll through our phones every free second. We talk to fill the gaps. But the more we do that, the more we drift away from ourselves. One day, we don't even know who we are anymore. Silence isn't emptiness. It's the space where life can finally be felt. In Buddhist and meditative traditions, silence is not just a state. It's a path. The Buddha often responded with silence. Not because he lacked answers, but because some truths can't be spoken. They can only be realized in deep inner quiet. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you recognize that what truly matters can't always be said with words. And in that silence, you'll realize something powerful. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are returning home. Silence is a doorway. When you open it, you step into yourself. And there, you'll find the peace you thought was somewhere else. The Dharma Journey was born from that longing, to walk this path with you, slowly, mindfully, and with honesty. We don't have perfect answers, We won't promise to transform your life in a few videos, but we're here to remind you of one simple truth. You deserve stillness. You deserve to live with the kind of peace no one else can take from you. And that journey begins now the moment you choose to pause, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to enter the silence. You don't need to understand it all at once. Just feel it, and walk with us on the Dharma journey one breath at a time. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, the world-honored one. When we think of silence, many of us immediately picture a quiet room, no sounds, no conversations, no echoes. For most people, silence feels dull, cold, even a little frightening. An empty space that stretches on, making us feel lonely, isolated, as if life itself has paused. But true silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the full presence of ourselves. When we truly enter a state of silence, we are not doing nothing, as people often assume. On the contrary, we are doing something deeply important. We are listening to ourselves. Silence is where we come home. It's the space untouched by words, distractions, or expectations from the outside world. In silence, we don't need to prove who we are. We don't need to be strong. We don't need to do something to be enough. We simply are ourselves. And in that space, we begin to see how often we've been living for others, trying to say the right things to please, trying to act in ways society expects. So caught up in reacting and keeping up in just surviving, we lose touch with our own hearts. Silence isn't just a place to rest. It's a place to see. We see our fears, not to run from them, but to understand them. We see old wounds, not to reopen pain, but to begin healing. We see our true dreams, the ones buried under the many roles we play in life. Why does silence have this power? Because when the noise fades, the mind has a chance to settle. Like a lake stirred by the wind, when the wind stops, the water becomes still and clear, revealing the bottom. Silence is the stilling of that wind. It creates the conditions for us to turn inward, to reflect instead of constantly looking outward and chasing the world. And something beautiful happens in that process. The more silent we become, the more clearly we hear, not with our ears, but with our presence. We begin to feel our heartbeat, our breath, our emotions, our thoughts. They were always there, but we never made time to truly listen. In deep silence, we realize we're not alone, not lost, not empty. On the contrary, we are stepping into a world more alive than ever before, the world within ourselves. Silence doesn't kill energy, it restores it. Silence doesn't make us weak, it nourishes our inner strength. Silence doesn't take us away from the world, it prepares us to return with clarity and mindfulness. Someone who treasures silence is someone learning to live with depth. In meditation, silence is essential. We sit quietly, seemingly doing nothing, but in truth, we're doing so much. We're learning to let go of unnecessary thoughts, to observe emotions as they arise, and to slowly become more gentle with ourselves. And it is in those silent moments that we touch life in its most delicate and profound form. Silence might seem like stepping away from life, but it's not. Silence is stepping deeper into life. Silence is taking a step back to see the whole picture. Silence is how we live without being swept away, how we love without being consumed, how we act without losing direction. Silence is also the greatest gift you can offer another person. When you are silent and present, you're no longer trying to fix their problems. You are simply there fully, completely, compassionately, and that is healing. Silence is an art, practice, path, and if you walk it deep enough, you will discover it is the path back to yourself, to the truth, and to a peace that no one can take away. Are you ready to live with silence? You don't have to understand it all right now. Just allow yourself to begin. A few minutes each day, no music, no social media, no conversation. Just you and your breath. Just you and the life unfolding in this moment. Let the Dharma journey be your companion on this sacred path of discovery. In the next chapters, we will continue exploring the power of silence in meditation, in communication, in healing, and in living mindfully in the world. And this journey begins the moment you choose to sit, to listen, and to be silent with yourself. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. In the fast-paced rhythm of modern life, we easily lose touch with ourselves. Surrounded by constant noise from work, digital devices, and societal expectations, we often find ourselves in a state of continuous reaction without truly living. It is in this context that meditation and silence appear, not merely as a form of rest, but as a gateway to return home. Meditation is not just about sitting still. It is a mindful return to each breath, each present moment. When we sit in silence, free from speech or action, we begin to notice a vibrant world unfolding inside, the steady rhythm of the breath. Emotions quietly surfacing, thoughts arising and passing away. Meditation does not try to change anything. It simply invites us to witness everything as it is. Silence in meditation is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is where every feeling becomes clearer than ever. We no longer avoid emotions or chase after thoughts. We simply sit present like a gentle friend listening to the heart. The Buddha once taught, "In the quiet of the mind, truth reveals itself." This is more than a moral teaching, it's a guide for practice. When the mind is still, no longer agitated by anger, desire, or fear, we begin to see clearly the true nature of all things, impermanence, non-self, and the interdependent nature of existence. And to calm the mind, nothing is more powerful than simply sitting down in silence. Meditation is a subtle blend of silence and mindfulness. Silence helps quiet the outer distractions, while mindfulness illuminates the inner world, like turning off all the noise in a room so you can finally hear the rain falling outside. We need inner silence to truly hear the voice of our inner wisdom. During meditation, emotional waves may rise. Anger, fear, sadness, like strong gusts of wind. But if we remain silently present, without reacting or judging, those waves eventually settle. What remains is a deep sense of peace, not from the outside, but from within. Silence in meditation is the ground of healing. Many wounds in us don't need fixing or analyzing, they simply need to be heard gently without interruption. When we meditate, we give ourselves the space to listen, not with words or reasons, but simply with presence. In this presence, there is acceptance. In acceptance, there is healing. One common misunderstanding among beginners is trying to achieve peace quickly. But inner calm is not a goal to reach. It is a natural fruit of steady practice. And the first lesson to learn is silence. Not trying to change the experience, not forcing anything, not craving results, simply sitting, breathing, and knowing that you are breathing. There is a kind of silence that is not a state, it is a way of being. With enough practice, silence no longer depends on the environment. It becomes a quality of the heart. Amid chaos, amid life's noise, we can still walk in silence, not caught in arguments, not drowned in reaction, not pulled by winning or losing. This is the art of stillness within movement, a deep power cultivated through meditation. And through meditation, we also learn a powerful truth. Not everything needs an explanation. Some things just need to be held in awareness. Not fixed, not solved, just seen, fully, clearly, kindly. The silence of meditation also awakens our intuition. When the mind is no longer cluttered by scattered thoughts, deeper insights can arise, not from the intellect, but from within. It might be a fresh perspective on an old problem, or a new direction emerging from complete stillness. Meditation gives us access to this inner wisdom that has always been there, quietly waiting. There's something even more beautiful. Silence nurtures compassion. Because as we reconnect with ourselves, we open up to truly connect with others. We listen without judgment. We see others with understanding because we've learned to look deeply into our own hearts. The silence brought by meditation doesn't make us distant, it makes us more present, more gentle, more real. And one day you'll no longer meditate just to find peace, because you'll realize you are peace. You're no longer seeking silence. You're living as silence. But the story doesn't end here. Each day, each moment you choose to pause, to breathe mindfully, to listen to the silence, you are taking one more step toward your true self. There is a language beyond all words, the language of silence. And there is a way of understanding that transcends all logic, the art of listening with the heart. In a world where everyone wants to speak, true listening becomes a radical act. And in a society filled with noise, where people rush to defend their opinions, silence and deep listening become a doorway to real human connection. We often think listening is simple, but true listening, without judgment, without interruption, without trying to fix, is a profound art. And to practice it, we need inner silence. Inner silence is not an escape. It is the foundation of true presence. Only in silence can we really hear, not just sounds with our ears, but the messages hidden between the lines. We begin to hear the tremble in someone's voice, the pain hidden beneath a smile, the sorrow buried in silence. This is the heart of deep listening, a listening rooted in presence and compassion. The Buddha once taught, deep listening can bring healing. We don't always need solutions. Sometimes all we truly need is someone who listens, not to respond, not to advise, but simply to understand. That in itself is already a miracle. People don't always need your advice. They need your presence. They need to feel seen, heard, and held without being judged or fixed. And to offer that, we must set aside our ego, our need to be right, our urge to reply. In silence, we learn to touch the suffering of others. We no longer look at others with eyes of comparison or criticism. We look through the eyes of compassion. We don't listen to reply, we listen to understand. And this takes a solid inner ground, calm enough not to be swept away by emotions, open enough not to shut down or turn away. Deep listening is not just for others, it's also for ourselves. When no one listens to you, perhaps it's time to listen to yourself. How many times have you hidden your true feelings just to avoid burdening others? How often have you pretended to be okay when your heart was quietly breaking? Silence in those moments becomes your companion, not to fix you, but to stay with you gently. Listening to yourself is the beginning of healing. When you can sit with your sadness without trying to push it away. When you can meet your loneliness without rushing to fill it. When you can face your old wounds without turning your back. That's WH. And your journey home begins. Silence illuminates our inner world. In meditation, silence is the space where awareness is born. You are no longer distracted by the external noise. You come home to your inner voice, not the voice of ego or fear, but of wisdom and compassion. And from that stillness, clarity arises. Often, what truly matters reveals itself in silence. And sometimes all we truly need is to be heard. Listening is a gift. It costs nothing. You don't need to be perfect, just present. Just offer your attention, your care, your heart. This simple act can soften anger, can dissolve loneliness, can bring light to a soul that has forgotten how to shine. In our families, our relationships, our friendships, what people often need is not another solution. They need someone to sit beside them in silence, to not speak, but to understand. True listening cannot coexist with judgment. The moment we begin to analyze or compare, we stop listening. Empathy asks us to pause our own views, to not let our stories drown out someone else's pain. It's not easy. Our instinct is to advise, to argue, to speak. But sometimes the most loving thing we can do is remain silent. Silence at the right time can save a relationship. When someone is angry, they don't need your logic. They need you to hear their hurt. When someone is grieving, they don't need your motivation. They need your quiet presence. And when you learn to listen this way, you're not just helping others. You're healing yourself. So begin with the small moments. When someone speaks, pause everything. Look at them. Listen not to respond, but to be fully with them. As if, in that moment, they are the most important person in the world. Because the truth is they are. In the light of mindfulness, listening is an act of compassion. And compassion is the root of all true happiness. Silence. Such a simple word, yet it holds a deep and quiet power. In a world full of noise, where people rush to speak, to prove themselves, and to be heard, the one who chooses silence holds an invisible strength. Silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is not giving up. In the light of mindfulness, silence is a powerful, intentional choice. There are moments when words are unnecessary. Moments when arguments only add to our exhaustion. Moments when the kindest thing we can do, for ourselves and others, is to remain silent. Because in that silence, the mind has space to settle. No longer pulled by reactivity, anger, or ego. We pause, breathe deeply, and see things with the eyes of awareness. Silence is self-mastery. It is when we no longer need to prove ourselves, to correct others, or to speak from raw emotion. When we are silent, we are turning inward to observe, to understand, and to respond from clarity. In Buddhist wisdom, there is a beautiful teaching. Avoid harsh speech. Delay even kind words. Before speaking, return to mindfulness. Silence isn't just to prevent harm, it's to nourish understanding and compassion. When someone is angry, they may say hurtful things. If we react with our own anger, it only adds fuel to the fire. But if we pause, breathe, and choose silence, that silence becomes a cushion for the fire to burn out. It becomes the air in which love and clarity can return. True strength is not found in how much you say, but in knowing when not to speak. Silence is refusing to be led by the ego. It is resisting the pull to argue, to be right, to be louder. Because we understand, peace doesn't come from winning. It comes from letting go. There will be times when you are misunderstood, criticized, or even insulted. The natural instinct is to defend, to explain, to strike back. But if you are strong enough to pause and wise enough to wait, that moment of silence becomes a doorway for wisdom to enter. Silence shows us what truly matters. Not everything deserves a response. Not every conversation needs our voice. And not everyone is ready to listen. When we realize that we choose silence not from fear, but from honoring our peace. Silence also protects the heart. When we're hurting, we don't need to explain everything. Sometimes we just sit quietly, return to the breath, and allow the silence to hold our pain. Not running. Not filling the space, just being there, long enough for healing to begin. In meditation, we practice silence not just with our mouths, but with our minds. We don't chase thoughts, we don't judge, we don't try to control. We simply sit like a quiet stream flowing through a forest. This is not emptiness, it's depth where the truest parts of our being can emerge. Silence is not an ending. Silence is a beginning. From silence, we hear the voice within. From silence, we understand others through their eyes, their body language, their trembling voice. From silence, we return to the world with a more open heart and a clearer mind. If life is a piece of music, silence is the pause that gives meaning to every note. If the mind is a garden, silence is the fertile soil in which seeds of wisdom can grow. And if life's journey is a path, silence is the mindful step that helps us walk with purpose and grace. Practice silence, not to avoid, but to return, not to mute, but to listen, not to suppress, but to gather strength. Silence, when chosen with understanding, becomes one of the greatest powers we have. There are journeys that take us to distant lands. And then there are journeys that require no steps, only a single moment of silence to return inward. This is the journey home. Not to a specific destination, not to something outside of you, but a gentle return to your heart, to the aliveness pulsing through your body and spirit. Throughout our lives, we've traveled far. We've learned how to meet others' expectations, to please society, to succeed by the world's standards. And yet, at some point, we realize we're exhausted. We've drifted so far from ourselves that we barely recognize the person in the mirror. The more we strive outwardly, the more empty we feel inside. The journey home is not about giving up. It's about starting again with honesty and tenderness. It's about living a life no longer controlled by anxiety, achievement, or comparison, but one led by wisdom and compassion. The Dharma Journey is not a rigid method or program. It is a gentle invitation for you to slow down, listen deeply, and begin walking the path of mindfulness. One breath at a time, one step at a time. Coming home does not mean turning away from the world. It means entering the world with a steadier heart. You can still work, raise your children, pursue your dreams, and show up fully in your relationships, but now you do so with presence, with gratitude, with respect for your own inner life. When you return to your body, you realize every breath is a miracle. When you return to your mind, you begin to see your emotions and thoughts clearly. You no longer let them control you. Instead, you learn to witness, to care for, and to understand them. Coming home is a gentle journey. You don't need to change overnight. You don't need to feel guilty for having been disconnected for so long. You simply begin today. Just 5 minutes of sitting quietly each day. Pause before reacting. A sliver of stillness in a busy moment to check in with your heart. Over time, those small silences become a sacred refuge, a grounding space that holds you steady through the ups and downs of life. The Dharma Journey walks beside you on this path, not to teach you something new, but to help you remember what you've always known. You already have clarity. You already have compassion. You are not missing anything to be at peace. It's all within you. You've just forgotten. And this journey is your space to come home, to remember, to nurture your inner being. There's a Buddhist saying, turning back is the shore. It doesn't mean escaping reality. It means returning to mindfulness, to your heart, so you don't lose yourself in the waves of life. You don't have to become a monk. You don't have to leave it all behind. You simply walk with awareness, with each breath, each step, each interaction. You remember that peace isn't found somewhere far away, it's right here, in this very moment. The Dharma Journey doesn't promise overnight transformation. It simply invites you to begin, gently, patiently, and sincerely. with short meditations, with heartfelt reflections, with mindfulness practices that meet you right in your everyday life. And in every return, you begin to see. Life is no longer a race. It becomes a poem, a melody, a journey you can walk fully present with gratitude in your heart. You can begin this journey right now. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect. You don't need to know it all. Just a little stillness, a little courage to look inward, and a little kindness to embrace yourself exactly as you are, wherever you are. Let the Dharma journey be your quiet companion, not to push you, not to judge you, but simply to walk with you. And each day you'll come closer to a beautiful truth. Peace is not something to be found. It's something you've always carried within. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.